Well, hello, it is Friday, August the 7th, which means it is time for your status check. Now, I'm Dale Delbridge, and I've got last week's numbers as well as this week's as always. 70 to 81 opportunities were available in the system. 4864 were active under contract for a ratio between those two numbers of 67%. This week's numbers were 7149 active in the system, which is slightly down. We're continuing that trend of less and less inventory available. And 4765 active under contract, which is also a slight decrease. Now, we take that ratio to see what the trend is a little bit, give us a little better idea, and it remained unchanged at 67%. So unchanged at 67%, slightly less inventory available. Now, I hope you had an opportunity to catch it. This week we just aired episode 2 of Dale and Special Guest, where my special guest, and I was really thrilled to have this guy, he is something special. Chris Corvo, Momentum Title. Now, he is a multi-generation, been doing this forever and ever. He knows his stuff, and he graciously agreed to come in, sit in with me as a guest, and talk about wire fraud. And it's a very serious subject. It is lucrative. It is, well, just watch it. You can watch the show if you want to after the status chat. I'll put a little link up there. You'll see which one it is. You'll see him, he and I together, and you can go ahead and watch that if you so desire. But anyway, today I'm going to run a little bit long because the second half of this, the second portion of this, I actually go into the MLS to look up your numbers, look up some numbers on some of this data that we've been looking at and comparing a little more detail, more than what I normally do. I mean, these things are just designed to be just quick, super fast, just to get a pulse of the market today, see which way we're trending. Are there anything that's sneaking up on us, or this is a little bit more detail. It shows you really what I'm trying to show you is there's a lot of different data to look at, a lot of different numbers, and I'm just giving you something real fast, just as a general pulse check. So let's get to that right after this. Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you're currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side, room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, subscribe while you're there, watch the demo. Afterwards, get with me and we'll set up your exclusive account today. All right, I just want to run in real quick and look at some charts. Basically, they're little tables. We're going to go up to search. We're going to hit the residential because I'm only going to look at the residential single family type of property, because there are other things. We can look at farmland, undeveloped, and we can look at vacant lots. They're all different classes. We're just talking homes. So we're going to go up here. We're going to look at the statuses, and we're going to take out coming soon or on hold because they are not available. Okay. Now I also have this number here where you see under contract, not showing. Now in the system, I usually pull those numbers up with. I pull them up with the Real Scout system. That is the system with the artificial intelligence that helps you sort through what is available to you, room by room, and property by property, up to 3 at a time. And that's a beautiful system. And it's just showing you what you have available. Now we can also look in that system. It just shows under contract. It doesn't say whether they're showing or not showing, but when we look at this, we have under contract not showing. I usually don't look at those. I usually don't present those when talking to potential buyers because they're not available. If they're under contract, they have a potential buyer, and if they're not showing, the seller is not on it. So neither the buyer or the seller is in a state of mind that they're thinking this is not going to go through. Under contract, they've got an offer, not showing, the seller is not continuing to show or market that property. Under contract showing is we have a contract, as the name implies, but they are showing it for whatever reason. And it may be a weak contract, or it may be just convenient to do so. For instance, so you had a vacant home. It's easier to show a vacant home than one that is occupied. In general, I think that's fair to say. Now, under contract not showing, you might even have a little bit of a shaky contract, but if you got a house full of dogs, it takes a while to corral up, or you're homeschooling and you've got children, and with the Rona running wild out there and got everything all messed up, there's a good chance that continuing to show may be a little bit more difficult for you. So if you get a contract, maybe you choose not to show. But in that case, if you represent a buyer, those are not available. Okay, so I tend to want to leave those off. I want to look at what's available and how quickly are they going under contract. So I will pick 3 months. Now, the further we go back in time, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, that's going to make that under contract number higher, and it's going to make it look like there's even less available. But I'm just going to go 3 months because that's the default where I've been using on the other system. Well, let's tell you what. Let's grab that under contract not showing too, because we'll compare the difference between those that went those that got it, basically those that have sold. They have not completed, but they have got an agreement. They might fall out under repair. They might fall out under appraisal. The reason why they may not go through. But we're going to look at 3 different charts. This is going to generate 3 charts. So what do you say we hit search? Woody's going to go around in a circle. I'm going to click a thing that says bring our charts up. There we go. Now Willie's going to go around again. All right, now we've popped out. Now up here we see the active. Now what have we been reporting? Something around 7,000 or 8,000. Today, this moment says 7221. Okay, down here under contract showing, we got 4458. How have we been running on those numbers? Now look right here, we got 5422. Now these are the ones that normally I don't talk about because they're under contract, but they're not showing. So if I was representing you, if I even mentioned these to you, what good would it do? Because the seller is not showing. So these are not available to us. So I kind of look at these ratios right here of those that are active and of those that are under contract. Where are we at? This just makes it look like the situation is so much worse than what it is when I put these in there. But we'll look at this number, this DOM. DOM stands for days on market, which is the number of days the listing was in an active state. That's by the time it gets, not the, what was that one we took off earlier? The coming soon. It isn't a coming soon, and it isn't one of the 2 under contracts or withdrawn. So we're kind of looking at it. That's how long it was available. And when we look at this, we see 63 days as average, and we see 30 days as the median. Now, what is the difference between those 2 numbers? The median is, you can think of that as the most commonly occurring, and you can think of the average as if we took the total number of days on market of every house and we divided it by the number of houses. That's going to be the average. But look right below this. You see the big difference between 63 and 30? My gosh, does that mean that you have a greater probability of hitting 63 days on the market? Well, first of all, every house is different, but this house was 1236. 1236. That's more than a year or 2, is it not? At 365, it's going to be about 365. That's going to be over 700 days just for 2 years. And 7 times 2 is going to be 14. So we're between 3 and 4 years that this house sat on the market. Well, let's look at why. Because according to this report, it's $18.5 million. Now, we might have thousands and hundreds of thousands of us who would be willing to live in an $18.5 million house. But how many of us can afford to buy it if we tried? And that's why that number is so high. In fact, the cheaper the house you go, the quicker that house will sell, on average. So here we are. Matter of fact, the minimum said it was 1 square foot. Now we don't know if that it's probably not a 1 square foot house, but we know that it probably was listed in the MLS, and it was sold before it was ever put in there, because it is 0 days on market. The number is a little bit squishy here. Maybe it's not all that reliable. Somebody hasn't done their job yet and cleaned up the data. but we see the average is 63 days, 30 days most common. And we look down here under the under contract. Well, that's only 10 days. For the houses that sold or got a contract, they went pretty quick. They went average 10 days. That's less than 2 weeks. And 31 days is the average of going under contract, and you're still showing. So it's still only a month. Very good numbers. Now let's look at the ones that went under contract and didn't continue to sell. Like they were priced to move and they were found. 4 days. 4 days is the most common day on the market for a house that went under contract that they're not continuing to try to market it. 4 days. 4 days. As compared to 23 days is the average if we put the best and the worst together. Because again, we have one here that's skewing the numbers. Look at this number. 604 days. That's almost 2 years of on the market. But it's also a $5 million house. So that $5 million house is throwing that average off. But the most commonly occurring is a house at about $300,000. It's a couple years old. Ends on the market 4 days. That's your median, the most common kind of number. How do you like that? Does that give you a better feel for some of these numbers? Now, look how much longer it took than our typical active, under contract, and ratio. So when we start to see this ratio, the under contract ratio drop, and we start getting more and more property on the market, our conditions change. So anyway, that is just a little different look on today's Status Chat.